Hey there, everyone. The doctor is in, and we are doing a special recording of a fan case I made many years ago called Shattered Glass Turnabout Reversal. It is an alternate universe to the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney canon, in which Miles Edgeworth is the defense attorney and Phoenix Wright is the prosecutor. Phoenix Wright does not actually appear in this case, but prepare for some, shall we say, differences from how the first case plays out, among other things. I don't know exactly how true that still is. And I know this isn't exactly true that much more anyway, because, well, Firefox has undergone some changes since this case was made, so we'll see. Hey, are you alright? Oh, crap! This can't happen. I can't be blamed for this. I gotta do something about this. Quick! Alright, this is it. The moment I've been training for. I can do this. Volume's a little loud. Let me adjust that real quick. Yeah, that should be okay, I think. Miles! Hello, Mr. Von Karma. Glad you could make it. Are you joking? I couldn't miss the debut trial of my star pupil. Are you adequately prepared? Indeed, sir. I have studied the relevant details of the case, spoken with my client, and I believe he is innocent. Very good. And have you had a chance to look over the autopsy report? I was able to skim through the preliminary version of the document. The coroner said he would be submitting his finalized copy to the court today. That's my boy. But remember, if you find your client to be guilty, I don't want you letting him go free just for a perfect win record. Only truth can bring about true perfection. A win record founded on lies is meaningless. Understood, sir. You needn't remind me. Do you know who the prosecuting attorney is? Winston Payne. I cannot fathom what his parents were thinking when they named him. Some things never change, it seems. Now listen, he's known as the Rookie Killer for a reason. Throughout his career, he's only lost one case to a debuting attorney. However, you needn't worry too much. His courtroom tactics are fairly straightforward. Don't worry, I've prepared for him. At the same time, do not allow yourself to become overconfident. Payne lacks presence, but that's precisely what makes him so formidable towards rookies. They become overly sure of themselves and end up overlooking important details. Details which completely destroy their cases. That's the title of Rookie Killer, it would seem. Mr. Edgeworth, I don't mean to seem ungrateful, but are you sure you're up for this? It's not too late to have Mr. Von Karma represent me, you know. I mean, this is your first case and all, and it's my neck on the line here. I just think maybe you ought to let a more experienced attorney take the lead here. Nonsense, Miles is more than capable of pleading your case. Your worries are groundless. Come now, how long have we known each other? Would I have assigned your case to him had I not the utmost confidence in his abilities? I suppose not, but I still feel like I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. If it reassures you in any way, I shall be aiding Miles in court should the need arise. I highly doubt it shall come to that, however. You are in excellent hands, my friend. Thank you, sir. I assure you you will not be disappointed. Well, Mr. Sot, it's time to go now. All right, go in there and make me proud. And for heaven's sake, don't forget to smile. My name is Miles Edgeworth. I'm a defense attorney. The details of my first case are relatively simplistic. The young woman was murdered inside her own apartment. The man they arrested for her murder was a newspaper salesman who discovered her body. A Mr. Frank Sot. Mr. Sot has been selling newspaper subscriptions to my law firm for several years now. He's also been a good friend to Mr. Von Karma and I for a long time. Despite his overly polite demeanor, he is a genuinely decent person. I'm unable to believe he would be capable of committing such a heinous act. All that remains is to convince the judge of that fact. And that is precisely what I shall do.
Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Frank Sot.
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready, Your Honor.
Ah, Mr. Edgeworth, is it? This is your first trial, correct?
Indeed, Your Honor.
I like to give a small test to all debuting attorneys. Tell me, what is the name of the defendant in this case?
Frank Sot, Your Honor, and the victim's name is Cindy Stone.
Yes, how did you know what my next question would be?
Please, you've been asking the same test question since Von Karma passed the bar. We're going to go to the profiles here. So Manfred Von Karma, age 65, gender male, a genius defense attorney, my mentor and founder of Von Karma & Co. law offices. Frank Sot, the defendant in this case, a newspaper salesman who discovered the victim's body. Cindy Stone, age 22, deceased, gender female. The unfortunate murder victim, an up-and-coming model, lived alone in an apartment. Winston Payne, age 61, gender male. The prosecutor in this case claims to have only lost one case. I remain unconvinced. Attorney's badge, proof of my profession. I prefer to keep it out in my pocket outside of court.
Anyway,
She was bludgeoned to death. Can we move on, please?
Mr. Edgeworth, since this is your first trial, I will be lenient with you this time. However, from this point on, you will either show proper respect or you will receive a penalty. Is that understood?
I apologize, Your Honor. It won't happen again. Edgeworth, please try not to get on the judge's bad side on your first trial. Great, he's referring to me by surname now.
Well then, Mr. Payne, would you please submit the autopsy report into evidence?
Certainly, Your Honor.
Let's see. Time of death, July 31st, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Cause of death, loss of blood due to blunt trauma. No other injuries found.
As the defense has stated, the victim died from blood loss after suffering blunt force trauma. The murder weapon was the statue of the thinker. He was found lying on the floor between the victim and the defendant.
I see. Court accepts this into evidence. Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Payne?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Very well then. Will the prosecution please explain the charges against the defendant?
It's quite simple, really. The victim was alone in her apartment when Mr. Sot came in. Thinking the apartment's owner was away, he decided to search for any valuables he could steal.
What you say is mere conjecture. You have not yet presented evidence suggesting thievery.
Sustained. Mr. Payne, do you have any evidence to back up your claim?
The victim's pockets were empty, and the suspect had cash that wasn't being kept in his wallet. Ordinarily, that wouldn't be an issue. However, he also had cash inside his wallet, implying that he picked up the other cash in a hurry.
Maybe so, but you don't have any proof the cash originally belonged to the victim.
The defense has a point. Please stick with the facts, Mr. Payne.
That's not all, Your Honor. The murder weapon just so happened to be made of solid gold. The defendant was likely attempting to steal the statue when he was discovered. In order to prevent the victim from calling the police, the defendant struck the victim with the statue. Wham! On the head! Smack! Killed her cold.
I believe we could have done without the sound effects.
A witness overheard the commotion and caught the defendant standing over the body. The witness called the police, who promptly arrested the defendant. An open and shut case if I ever heard of one. You may as well give up while you still can, rookie.
On the contrary, Miles, I can already perceive several flaws in his premise. Naturally, you won't be sharing those flaws with me. Not that it matters, I've noticed a flaw or two of my own.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. The prosecution may now call its first witness.
The prosecution calls the defendant, Mr. Frank Sod, to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. My name is Frank Sod. I am a humble newspaper salesman. Mr. Sod, isn't it true that your newspaper business has been suffering as of late? I wouldn't say that. My business is just going through a bit of a rough patch right now. Many of my customers are now getting their news delivered digitally. My business has yet to go beyond paper and ink.
Calm down, Sod. He's just trying to rattle you and you're playing right into his hands.
Thankfully, I still have several loyal customers who prefer the traditional newspapers.
Darn right. There's just something about traditional newspapers that feels so much more comforting. Since when does the news deliver comfort in any medium?
Isn't much, but it feeds me and pays the bills, so who am I to complain? Oh, you were definitely complaining. You were complaining so much that you broke into the victim's house to steal her valuables. What the are you talking about? I had no reason to break into a house. I'm an honest businessman. Yeah, and I'm the Steel Samurai.
Your Honor, the prosecution is badgering the witness. Moreover, Mr. Payne is most certainly not the Steel Samurai.
Edgeworth, for heaven's sake, be serious.
I see he isn't using my full name.
Sustained. Please refrain from these ridiculous notions of being the Steel Samurai, Mr. Payne.
At any rate, you didn't realize the apartment's owner was home. So, rather than letting her turn you in, you decided to silence her. Permanently. Wham! On the head. Smack! Killed her cold.
I'm getting a strange feeling of deja vu now.
But before you could make your escape, you were caught in the act and were forced to wait there until the police arrived. Please, if you'll just let me explain what happened.
Very well. Please explain to the court what you were doing at the victim's apartment.
I went to the apartment complex in hopes of finding some new customers. Needless to say, I didn't expect to stumble across what I did. After walking around for a while, I noticed someone left the door ajar. I knocked to see if anyone would answer, but no response came. So I took a peek inside to see if anyone was home. And that's when I saw it. The victim's body bleeding on the floor. I was about to go to the phone to call an ambulance when someone saw me and called the police.
With the court's permission, I should like the witness to elaborate on the events leading to his arrest.
That will be fine. I'm actually a little curious about why he didn't bother fleeing the scene.
The answer's pretty obvious, but I'll explain it so Mr. Edgeworth can benefit from my court experience. When the victim's boyfriend called the police, the defendant was overcome with his own guilt. He knew all that was left for him was to pay for his crimes.
Yes, I suppose that's why we are pleading not guilty in this case.
Not to interrupt, but aside from the fact that fleeing the scene makes you look like a criminal, the biggest reason I never left is because the victim's boyfriend was pointing a gun at me. He did go to the kitchen to call the police, but he had a clear shot from there, so I stayed put. He had me face the wall with my hands up so I couldn't see if he always had the gun trained on me. I didn't want to chance it, though.
Your Honor, I was not informed of this. You know how difficult it is for one to obtain a firearm here. I find the fact that the victim's boyfriend was in possession of one to be rather suspect.
If the victim had been shot to death, I could see how this might be relevant. However, since she wasn't shot, there's absolutely nothing here that will help your case. Sorry.
Nevertheless, I want to ask this individual a few questions should he take the stand.
Fair enough. We do need to keep moving forward, though. Will the defense please begin the cross-examination?
Do you need to explain how to perform a cross-examination? That will be unnecessary, sir. Since there are no direct contradictions, I need only press for more information. Should also thoroughly examine the evidence and profiles in the court record at this time. Excellent. Glad to see the mock trials I put you through haven't gone to waste.
I went to the apartment complex in hopes of finding some new customers.
Where the blazes did that come from?
When the police came to arrest you, no newspapers were located on your person. How do you account for that if you were indeed trying to find new customers?
Hold it!
First off, I am the one who is performing this cross-examination. Secondly, perhaps if the defendant were to explain the duties of a newspaper salesman, the reason as to why he was not in possession of a newspaper at the time would become apparent.
Very well. Please explain this to the court, Mr. Sod.
Ah, yes, you see, I do not go from door to door selling newspapers. I go from door to door selling monthly newspaper subscriptions. What?
I see. Please continue with your testimony, Mr. Sod.
Needless to say, I didn't expect to stumble across what I did.
Hold it!
And what exactly did you stumble across?
I'll be getting to that shortly, please be patient. After walking around for a while, I noticed someone left the door ajar.
Hold it!
Now that I think of it, I'm not quite sure what to ask here. Witness, when you say ajar, do you mean that the door was open part way, or that the door was mostly closed, but it was simply not latched?
The second one, I suppose? Although I'm not quite sure what difference it makes.
Nor am I, for that matter.
I knocked to see if anyone would answer, but no response came.
Hold it!
Would you kindly explain how it is possible to knock on an open door?
Pretty simple, actually. You just hold the door in place with one hand and knock on the door with the other.
Why did I not think of that?
So I took a peek inside to see if anyone was home.
Hold it!
Why would you do such a thing? If anyone was watching at the time, you would have looked quite suspicious.
Well, if someone was home, I would have left the door ajar and went on my way. If they were home and within earshot of my knocking, that would mean they did not wish to see me. I would also assume it meant they left the door ajar on purpose.
And if no one was home?
I would assume they left the door ajar on accident and closed it for them.
That makes sense. Please continue.
And that's when I saw it.
Hold it!
And what exactly did you see?
I'm getting to that. Will you shut up for a moment and let me finish?
Sorry I asked.
Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, yes. The victim's body bleeding on the floor.
Hold it!
Could you please describe the state of the crime scene?
Well, there was the victim's body, for one thing. A pool of blood next to her head. And a bloody knife, which I assume was the murder weapon.
That's rather intriguing. It may prove useful to add Sod's statements about the knife to the court record. The bloody knife supposedly saw it at the crime scene. Would you kindly add that last statement to your testimony?
If you insist.
Hold on here.
I also saw a bloody knife on the floor. I believe it was the murder weapon.
Alright, so we can actually present one of two things here, either the thinker statue or the autopsy report. I'm going to go ahead and present the autopsy report.
Objection!
So, you believe that the knife you saw was the murder weapon?
Well, I didn't see any knife wounds on the victim's back, but she was laying face down, so yes.
I'm sorry, but that's simply not possible. According to the autopsy report, the victim was killed by a blunt weapon. Oh, I simply assumed...
You ought to know what kind of weapon was used. You killed her.
And that is precisely my point. Since Mr. Salt did not know the victim was bludgeoned to death, perhaps we can infer from this that he is not the murderer.
Or maybe he's making up a pathetic lie to save his own skin. First of all, Detective Skye found no knife at the scene, bloody or otherwise. And if the lie wasn't pathetic enough, the witness ought to know how the victim died, since I told him shortly after he came to the witness stand!
Did you now? If I recall correctly, your exact words were, and I quote, "Wham! On the head! Smack! Killed her cold." You said absolutely nothing about the murder method or weapon. The only clues you gave were your asinine sound effects.
I'm sorry, Mr. Payne, but what the defense says is true. Not once after Mr. Sawat's arrival did you directly state the nature of the murder weapon.
I'm pretty sure I at least mentioned it wasn't a gun, didn't I?
Oh yes, how could we forget? You're the epitome of healthiness, Mr. Payne. Emma Skye, age 24, gender female, lead detective on the case, specializes in forensics and alchemy.
It seems, however, that we may need to hear someone else's perspective on this case. Will the prosecution please call its next witness?
Alright then, the prosecution calls the victim's boyfriend, Larry Butts, to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. My name is Larry Butts, and I'm an entrepreneur of sorts. Would you please explain what you mean by entrepreneur? Well, right now it means I'm unemployed, attempting to get my next big break. A while back, however, I designed this device called the Snapper. It lets you turn your lights on and off by snapping your fingers.
Hey, that sounds like something I could use in my chambers.
Mr. Butts, you are aware of the device called the Clapper, correct? Does the exact same thing, except with claps instead of snaps? That's the thing. I designed the Snapper first, but apparently more people are able to clap than snap. So when the Clapper came along, it kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. You can check the patent office to confirm this if you like. I really don't think that would be necessary.
Larry Butts, where in the world have I heard that name before?
Hey, Edgy, is that you? Dude, I haven't seen you in, like, ages. Looks like you're now a defense attorney to boot. Not too shabby, man.
Wait a minute. It can't be. Not him.
Miles, is everything all right? Okay, it's just that I recognize this guy from grade school. My classmates had a saying back then. When something smells, it's usually the butts. How droll. In all seriousness, Butts seemed to have a difficult time keeping himself out of the principal's office. If he is involved in this case, I don't imagine that to be a good thing. That may be so, but don't let yourself be fooled by preconceptions based off his behavior 20 years ago. Remember, in court, evidence is everything. You're right. I should just wait and see what he has to say.
What's the matter, Edgy? No greeting for your old friend?
You're right, I apologize. I cannot find words to express how it feels to see you again.
I wonder if they make devices that turn lights on and off when you pound a gavel. What am I still talking about? I almost forgot we were on trial here.
Don't scowl at me. I had nothing whatever to do with your forgetfulness. If anything, blame Butts or Payne.
Anyway, Mr. Butts, please testify to the court what you witnessed that day.
Larry Butts, age 23, gender male, an old acquaintance of mine from elementary school. Always seemed to be in trouble.
What happened when you went to the victim's apartment?
Sure thing, Gramps. Right, so the victim's my girlfriend, Cindy. I actually went to see her earlier that day. We hung out for a while, did typical boyfriend-girlfriend stuff. But unfortunately, I eventually had to leave. I went to my car, and I was about to head on out when I found out I had left my keys in the apartment. When I got back, though, I found the door partly open, and I heard noises inside. I
looked inside and I saw that beast bash Cindy over the head with a statue, killing her. I quickly made him drop the weapon and then call the police so they could come get this creep. If only I hadn't left, maybe Cindy would still be alive.
Actually, Mr. Butts, I have a few questions for you now that you're here. The defendant claims you pointed a gun at him in order to keep him there while waiting for the police. For the last 15 years, it's been most difficult for anyone not in law enforcement to obtain a gun. How then, pray tell, did you manage to come by one?
Oh, that. Well, yeah, I didn't actually have a gun. I was holding a G1 Megatron.
G1 Megatron, is that some kind of car engine?
Actually, it's an action figure that shapeshifts to look like a gun. Totally had that creep fooled. Are you nuts? The guy just murdered your girlfriend. What if he could see the gun was fake?
Mr. Payne has a point. You could have gotten yourself killed.
As insane as this tactic sounds, I can attest to its efficacy. As I recall, the witness had taken that toy to school with him on several occasions. All was well until it took on the shape of a gun. I shall not regale you with the tales of my father asking me why my school was fraught with policemen.
See? I had nothing to worry about.
Ask me what I make of his testimony and I'll take over the case. That was not what I was trying to say. Alright, maybe it was, but just this part of friendly conversation, I swear.
The defense has no more questions about the gun and may now begin its cross-examination.
Right, so the victim was my girlfriend, Cindy.
Hold it!
How long did you know the victim?
That line of questioning is hardly relevant. All you need to concern yourself with is the day of the murder. Save the chit-chat for after court, why don't you?
Gad's Payne actually has a point for once.
Sustained. Please remain focused on the matter at hand.
Says the person who went off on a tangent about turning lights on and off with a gavel. Well, at least I didn't get a penalty.
I actually went to see her earlier that day.
Hold it!
At approximately what time did you go to visit the victim?
I'd say it was about 1 p.m. or so.
And while you were there, what exactly were you doing?
We hung out for a while, did typical boyfriend-girlfriend stuff.
Hold it!
Define typical boyfriend-girlfriend stuff.
You really want to know?
On second thought, don't answer that question.
Too bad, because I'm going to tell you anyway. We watched the movie and had lunch.
Not as bad as I feared, but still too much information. Although, I suppose it's my own fault for asking the question in the first place.
But unfortunately, I eventually had to leave.
Hold it!
Give the court an approximation of the time you left.
A little after 4 p.m. maybe? Hard to say.
Interesting.
I went to my car and was about to head on out when I found out I'd left my keys in the apartment.
Hold it!
How far away from the apartment would you say you parked?
Well, the parking lot was a little crowded that day, so I'd say about 5 minutes away. So, about a 10-minute walk round trip.
Would certainly leave enough time for someone to enter the apartment in his absence. Continue, please.
When I got back, though, I found the door partly open and I heard noises inside.
Hold it!
I find it strange that a killer would leave the door open to a crime scene he hasn't left yet.
Believe it or not, that's what he did. I mean, I couldn't begin to tell you why.
We assume everything Saw it said was the gospel truth. It certainly provide an explanation for the open door. But conjecture won't help me in here. I need cold, hard evidence.
I looked inside and I saw that beast bash Cindy over the head with the statue, killing her.
Hold it!
If that's the case, why didn't you put a stop to this?
It all happened so fast I wasn't able to stop him in time. So I ended up having to take him down after he clocked her. I quickly made him drop the weapon and then called the police so they could come get this creep.
Hold it!
I am assuming he allegedly dropped the statue because you pointed that toy gun at him. It's not a toy, it's an action figure! Other than that, yeah, that's what happened. Figures, Butts forgets his keys, but remembers to bring his toy with him. God help me. And why did you immediately call the police? For me, my first thought would be to call an ambulance. I wasn't thinking straight at the time. I just saw Cindy brutally murdered. Give me a break. If only I hadn't left, maybe Cindy would still be alive.
Hold it!
Can you say with 100% certainty that your presence would have any impact at all? Maybe 2 people would have frightened the killer away? Maybe you would have cowered in fear in the face of my awesome manliness? Possibly, but you'll never know for sure. I would hesitate to place the blame on myself were I in your shoes. Miles, would you explain to me how this line of questioning is in any way related to your case? I'm lulling him into a false sense of security. Maybe he'll slip up and say something new. Very well, carry on then. Good, but I really don't know why I asked this. Hopefully it will work as I explained, though. Something is certainly off about Butts' testimony. It'd probably be best if I review everything I know at this point. You aren't asking me for help. That's a good sign. To put it in the common vernacular, I've got this one, Pops. Was that intended to be a joke of some kind? This raises the question of who added the starch to his undergarments. Alright, so we're going to skip ahead to the relevant testimony point. I quickly made him drop the weapon and called the police so they could come get this creep. Thinker statue, alleged murder weapon, solid gold, fingerprints, and blood have been wiped off.
Objection!
Let me see if I have this correct. You say you saw the killer bash the victim over the head, and then you immediately made him drop the statue. Darn right. I'm sorry, but there's something here that I'm not following. If the killer dropped the murder weapon immediately after committing the crime, explain how he found the time to wipe his fingerprints from the murder weapon. He didn't need time, he was wearing gloves. I don't think that explains things adequately enough.
As would I. What about you, Mr. Edgeworth? Does the killer wearing gloves change anything?
If the killer wore gloves, would that invalidate my objection? Fingerprints and blood have been wiped off. Yes, it would. Oh. Wrong button. Yeah, yes, that would explain the contradiction.
Well then, I can't say I see any reason to prolong this trial. Between the evidence and Mr. Butts' testimony, I believe I can safely hand down my verdict. Court finds the defendant, Frank Sawett. Objection.
I'm sorry, but there is still something that hasn't been explained. Even if the killer was wearing gloves, it doesn't explain how he found time to wipe off the blood.
Hey, that's a good question.
Miles, do you mind consulting me before you run off your mouth like that? Well, I would have if you hadn't made it abundantly clear you weren't here to help.
The defense has raised an excellent point, Mr. Butts. What do you have to say for yourself?
It was an honest mistake. I can explain. It's weird. I know I remembered seeing the killer blow. I must have gone into shock after seeing Cindy murdered like that. The creep could have walked right up to me and I wouldn't have noticed. I must have finished wiping the fingerprints and blood off the statue before I snapped out of it. That's it. That's got to be the explanation.
I believe that actually explains things quite adequately. However, the defense is entitled to a cross-examination. You may proceed, Mr. Edgeworth.
Miles? What's wrong?
His testimony, I don't think you'll be able to find anything to attack here. What if I press him for more information? By all means, do so. But I doubt there will be anything more to find.
It's weird. I know I remembered seeing the killing blow.
Hold it!
That's impossible. We established there wasn't enough time for the alleged killer to clean the statue. How do you account for the gap between the killing blow and the time when you held up Mr. Sod? As much as I hate to admit it, I must have gone into shock after seeing Cindy murdered like that.
Hold it!
Surely you must be joking. How can we be expected to believe that without any proof? The man had just seen his girlfriend lying dead on the floor. It's a traumatic experience which caused him to go into shock. It's not only completely plausible, it's entirely probable that something like that would happen. And your line of questioning is only traumatizing him further, so knock it off!
You aren't going to like hearing this, but Payne is right.
Doesn't this explanation sound a little too convenient?
Maybe so, but short of an additional eyewitness, you don't have any way of proving that.
That creep could have walked right up to me and I wouldn't have noticed.
Hold it!
That brings up an interesting question. How is it that the alleged killer never noticed you at this time? Seems rather unlikely to me. I didn't open the door any farther than it was already opened. And I was behind the door just enough to where he wouldn't see me if he wasn't paying attention.
He's either telling the truth or better at thinking up on-the-spot explanations than he looks.
He must have finished wiping the fingerprints and blood off the statue before he snapped out of it.
Hold it!
All this seems just a little too convenient. You were in shock just long enough for him to clean the statue, but not in shock long enough for him to escape?
You give it a rest. It is what it is, okay? Now stop badgering the witness unless you have some proof to back up your claims.
Well, aren't you one to talk?
That's it. That's got to be the explanation.
Hold it!
I remain unconvinced. Believe what you want. Doesn't matter whether you're convinced. I saw what I saw that day, and you can't prove otherwise.
As much as it pains me to say it, he's right.
This line of questioning is getting us nowhere. I believe the prosecution has proven their case.
Hold it!
How can you say that? You have absolutely no decisive evidence proving my client guilty. All you have are the prosecution's allegations of thievery, the possibility that my client was trying to steal the gold statue, a statue you can't even prove he touched to begin with. And the only testimony you have against him is that of one witness, testimony which I find highly suspect, to say the least.
I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth. In the courtroom, the burden of proof lies with the defense.
What kind of backwards philosophy is that?
I'm sorry, Miles, but the judge is right. With your overseas law training, I suppose you must have forgotten. Courts in the United States and Japan use the guilty until proven innocent paradigm. Ever since the DL6 incident, the laws were changed to make sure the guilty would be punished, no matter what the cost.
But the cost is a man's life. I know that.
That's why you cannot give up. If you truly believe in your client, you must find a way to turn this trial around. Review everything you know. Explore every possible angle.
What did I tell you? Open and shut case. Should have pleaded guilty while you had the chance. But I'm not guilty! Come on now, it's obvious to everyone that you're as guilty as they come. Shut your mouth! This is a mistake, a misunderstanding! If anyone needs to shut his mouth, it's you. I'm not the one on trial here. I said shut up!
One more outburst like that, Mr. Sod, and I'll hold you in contempt. Mr. Payne,
Yes, Your Honor?
please return the defendant's toupee so I can render my verdict.
Fine.
I have to find a way to prove Mr. Sod innocent, but what can I do? There's some piece of evidence we overlooked? Someone related to the case we haven't heard from yet. What should I do? That's it. There may still be a way to turn this about.
If there are no objections, I shall now render my verdict.
Objection!
Me and my big mouth.
I apologize, Your Honor. However, there's still someone related to this case we've not yet heard from.
If what you say is true, then I suppose we must hear what this person has to say. But be warned. If this is merely an attempt to stall for time, there will be a severe penalty.
Understood, Your Honor.
Very well, then. Who was related to the case who has not yet testified?
Take that!
Emma Skye?
Indeed, Your Honor. I believe Detective Skye may provide us with some valuable insight.
Very well. Mr. Payne,
Yes, Your Honor?
is Detective Skye ready to testify?
Do we really need her to be? This case is so straightforward, I don't see how bringing Skye to the stand would change things.
You may be right, but as a judge, I must do what I can to ensure an accurate verdict. So, is the detective ready to testify?
Yeah, about that. Since this was such a simple case, I didn't think it was necessary to bring her in.
And what exactly made you think that?
Throughout my entire career, there's only ever been one time I needed the case's lead detective at the witness stand.
Wasn't that the JFA-1 case?
Don't remind me. At any rate, I didn't think this case would be any different from the other 99%.
Fine, then. Court is adjourned for a brief recess while the prosecution gathers the last witness. The trial will reconvene in 30 minutes.
Can't say I'm fond of the direction this trial is taking. It's understandable. I know our client is innocent, but events have not been favorable. If only we'd been notified of the case sooner, we might have been able to investigate the crime scene for ourselves. That being said, the police have lately confined investigations to a crime scene's immediate surroundings. Therefore, in an effort to make sure the apartment gets investigated thoroughly, I took the liberty of sending my private investigator to the scene before the trial started. The police officer is accompanying him as a necessary precaution. It wouldn't do if the prosecution were to accuse him of forging evidence on our behalf. Maybe you should contact him and see if he has any new evidence for us. Naturally, why else would I bring him up this subject?
Hello?
Mr. Gumshoe, how's your analysis of the crime scene coming along?
Could be better, boss. I checked up the medicine cabinet like you asked, but...
Wait, why did you ask him to check the medicine cabinet? Because Sort claims to be the second person on the scene. Assuming the murder was related to burglary, most burglars would try to find any prescription medications lying about, black market and all that. Why not just take the statue? The statue's harder to hide than pill bottles. Besides, it was the murder weapon. Likely the burglar left it behind, so if caught, he or she would have plausible deniability. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Seems rather far-fetched, if you ask me. Leave no stone unturned, my boy.
Are you guys done yet?
Sorry, please continue.
As I was trying to say, we can rule out that theory. There's a full bottle of antidepressants here.
Antidepressants? I can imagine her boyfriend was Larry Butts, after all.
I don't know about that, pal. You'd think that if that were the reason, she'd have taken some by now. But this prescription was filled 2 weeks before the murder.
In any case, depression is not the only malady antidepressants are prescribed for. They're also used to treat anxiety, OCD, eating disorders, and in some rare cases, rage. Is that a fact? Mr. Gumshoe, would you kindly have the officer with you submit the evidence for me? Court record online submission. Case ID is SG1.1. Authorization Miles Edgeworth.
Will do, sir.
Prescription medication bottle filled 2 weeks before the murder, still completely full. Thank you, Gumshoe. You deserve a raise. Now then, do you have a plan of attack for when the detective gets here? Or was this merely an attempt to stall for time? To be honest, the latter was my original intention. Now I believe I might have an inkling about what may have actually transpired. And what would this inkling of yours be? Not just yet. I'd like just a little more proof before I divulge any details. For now, I actually have a question for you. Why did you refer this case to me? This is my first official trial, and you gave me a murder case with no time to investigate the scene. Don't get me wrong, I'm flattered by your trust in me. However, I believe an explanation is in order. I'm sorry, but that will have to wait. Recess is almost over. Incidentally, do you know where your client is right now? He said he felt a little nauseous. I had a bailiff escort him to the restroom, just to be safe. Hello, Mr. Edgeworth. Sorry it took so long. Feeling a little better now, though. Well, you're still sweating profusely, poor guy. Do you think you'll be alright after recess is over? Yes, it was just nervousness after nearly receiving that guilty verdict. Twice. No need to worry about that anymore. You had best return to the courtroom now, though.
Court is back in session, as the prosecution secured its witness.
Naturally, Your Honor. He didn't seem too happy about having to come here at the last minute, though.
Maybe you'll consider that the next time you think a detective won't need to take the stand.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good, then. Is the defense ready to continue?
Most certainly, Your Honor. To be honest, I'm wondering why the prosecution hasn't called the witness to the stand by now.
Good question. Would the prosecution mind answering this for us?
I thought I was supposed to wait and see if the defense was ready first.
Technically you are, but I thought a little psychological warfare was in order.
Well, since the defense is obviously ready now, the prosecution will now call its next witness. Will the witness please state her name and occupation? Emma Skye, police detective. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but can we please speed things along? I thought I had the day off today, so I promised my cousin I'd go ice skating with her this afternoon. The rink closes at 1 p.m. today, and I have a half hour to drive to go pick her up. I'd like to keep that promise if possible.
We're sorry for the inconvenience, Detective Skye. We shall try not to take up too much of your time.
Thanks. Mr. Von Karma, hi! I didn't know you'd be here. And Miles, I haven't seen you since Mr. Von Karma took my sister's case 6 years ago.
Pleasure to once again make your acquaintance, Detective Skye. I'm pleased to see you made detective while I've been away. Sadly, however, the reminiscence must be put on hold. We'll attempt to be brief, so hopefully your promise to your cousin can remain unbroken.
Right, thank you. With that out of the way, will the witness please testify about her investigation? Alright, let's do this. One of the first things we did was ascertain the victim's cause of death. It was pretty easy to see that the victim was killed with the blunt object. Since the statue matched the criteria, we hypothesized that it was the murder weapon. However, we sprayed the area and the statue with alchemically enhanced luminol just to be sure. The only areas that tested positive were the floor where the victim died and the statue itself. Later reports confirmed that this was consistent with the wound and victim's blood type. It's all pretty cut and dry, scientifically speaking.
Oh, what? When, where, why?
Were you even listening to a word I said?
I was. I just didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. I'll try and listen more closely during cross-examination.
Ugh, whatever. Fine.
I really need to rethink my stance on allowing coffee in this courtroom.
It appears that this testimony shall require some digging. Indeed. But with the right questions, you might be able to turn this entire case on its head. Or at least manage to procure some valuable information that will later prove useful.
If you two are done, can we move on with the cross-examination? The witness does have an appointment she wants to keep today. Don't think you're winning any points with me, Payne. You're still the one who waited to call me into the last minute. Will the defense please hurry up with its cross-examination already?
With your Honor's permission?
Granted. Begin your cross-examination.
One of the first things we did was ascertain the victim's cause of death.
Hold
How did you go about doing that?
By examining the body, of course.
Ah, naturally. Please continue.
It was pretty easy to see that the victim was killed with the blunt object.
Hold it!
I wouldn't be too sure about that. My client thought that the victim was killed with the knife.
I don't really understand why. Then again, he's not a trained professional like I am. Regardless, to the scientific eye, the cause of death was obvious.
Very well then.
Since the statue matched the criteria, we hypothesized that it was the murder weapon.
Hold it!
And of course you took steps to make sure this was the case.
Did you fall asleep too during my testimony? I already said we did.
Of course I didn't fall asleep. I was paying attention to your every word. I bet you were. Shut up.
Moving on. However, we sprayed the area and the statue with alchemically enhanced luminol, just to be sure.
Hold it!
For the uninformed, would you mind explaining what this alchemically enhanced luminol does?
What? Do you not know what luminol is, Miles?
Of course I know what it is. I just thought Mr. Payne might benefit from knowing.
It's alright, Miles. I don't mind telling you.
She saw right through me.
Listen carefully. There may be a test. Luminol is a versatile chemical that exhibits chemiluminescence when mixed with an appropriate oxidant. In layman's terms, mix it with the right substance and it glows blue. Now, the oxidant alone won't do the trick. For that desired blue glow, you need a catalyst, like iron. This is particularly useful because iron is found in hemoglobin, so any blood stain will cause a glow. There can be drawbacks, though, because it'll also react with fecal matter, bleaches, horseradish, etc. However, the luminol we use has been alchemically enhanced to where it only reacts to blood. So now, as long as you wear specially designed goggles or even glasses like I'm wearing now, any blood that the luminol reacts with shows up as a bright blue color. And there you have it, luminol in a nutshell.
Thank you, Detective. That was very informative.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. You may continue now.
The only areas that tested positive were the floor where the victim died and the statue itself.
Hold it!
How much of the area did you cover exactly?
Oh, that reminds me. I forgot to give you guys this map of the scene. The area outlined with red is the area of the apartment we searched. The light blue spots are where the luminol tested positive for blood.
You didn't investigate the entire apartment?
No, Chief's been having us confine investigations to immediate surroundings. Guess he's trying to save the department some time for investigating more cases.
I see. You may continue.
Later reports confirmed that this was consistent with the wound and the victim's blood type.
Hold on.
Hold it!
Now that you mention it, I'm rather curious as to what exact blood test was performed.
In this case, it was a simple test to determine whether the blood type was O, A, B, or AB.
Why not perform a DNA test? One cannot afford to leave any room for doubt when a man's life hangs in the balance.
I know that, but this isn't some courtroom drama. DNA tests take a very long time to perform. The results wouldn't have been ready in time. If it helps, you can always file for an appeal if the DNA results shed new light on the case later on.
I am aware of that, but Von Karman Co. law offices prefer that appeals not be made necessary, especially considering appeals are rather difficult to make in this day and age.
In any case, you at least have that to fall back on. Incidentally, the victim's blood type was O positive.
Thank you, Detective Sky.
It's all pretty cut and dry, scientifically speaking.
Hold it!
I beg to differ. There's still plenty of room for doubt.
And what makes you say that?
Because, well,
Miles, you can argue with me all you want, but you can't argue with scientific investigation.
perhaps this is not the best place to gather information. I know you're utterly against providing any help while you're here. Whatever gave you that impression? You did. Anyway, would you mind telling me exactly how I should proceed here? If I must, first, you will need to gather as much information as you can. Next, you should see if anything in the court record can be examined in more detail. I shall leave the rest to you.
One of the first things we did was ascertain the victim's cause of death. It was pretty easy to see that the victim was killed with a blunt object. Since the statue matched the criteria, we hypothesized it was the murder weapon. However, we sprayed the area and the statue with alchemically enhanced luminol just to be sure. The only areas that tested positive were the floor where the victim died and the statue itself. There is other blood spatterings with the victim and the suspect. And another part of the floor. So we are going to submit the map. Due to the wording of this statement, a direct objection may not be the best course of action. Technically, regardless of how far the bloodstain is from the victim, it's still on the floor, and the floor is where the victim died. Now, I believe a different approach will be required here. I should gather all the information I can, then press her. About this issue, I mean.
Hold it!
I believe I should have enough information at this point. What shall I do? Because it doesn't have any penalties. So, Emma, how's everything been going for you lately?
Why do you pelt me with snackoos?
I thought you said you try to be brief!
Mr. Edgeworth, this line of questioning is a waste of the court's time. Do I need to penalize you for this?
I'd say the good detective's wrath is enough punishment. After all, hell hath no fury like a woman.
I thought it was hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Trust me, it's hell hath no fury like a woman.
Hold it!
Detective, there is something I find quite puzzling about this map. Like what? Would you mind pointing it out for me, please? If you insist.
Take that!
That bloodstain? What about it?
There is something rather peculiar here I would like you to explain to the court. Could you kindly tell us exactly why this bloodstain is so far from the body?
To tell you the truth, we wondered about that at first. But as near as we can tell, it had to have been the impact causing the blood to splatter.
As near as we can tell is not an acceptable explanation, Detective.
Think what you want, but it's like Mr. Von Karma said when he was helping my sister. When you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
It's a Sherlock Holmes quote. Von Karma only borrowed it.
Seriously, I mean, what else could have caused that bloodstain?
Take that!
A bloodied knife?
Indeed.
Okay, first of all, there was no knife on the scene. Secondly, even if there was, the victim had no wounds aside from the blow to the head. Finally, it couldn't possibly be the defendant's blood because his blood type is A positive.
Is it now? Thank you, Detective Sky. You've been most helpful. So, have you gathered the information you needed? I believe I have. All I need now is just one moment to think through the events. The main problem with the bloodstain on the floor is that it's too far away from the body. Supposedly, it's due to blood spattering from the blunt impact, but that doesn't seem very likely. Obviously, the second bloodstain could have easily been caused by the bloody knife. This raises the question, did my client actually see the knife? Yes, of course he saw the knife in the apartment, so why was it no longer there when Emma arrived? I need to work out the course of events according to both Saw and Butts. First, Butts left the apartment. While Butts was gone, Saw noticed the corpse and the knife. Butts returns to the apartment, sees Saw, points his toy gun at him, then calls the police. Clearly someone must have absconded with the knife sometime after Saw laid eyes on it, and sometime before the investigation team arrived. The question is, who could have moved the knife during this time period? Based on the testimony and the evidence, Butts is very likely the one who moved the knife. This would definitely implicate Butts in Miss Stone's murder. It only leaves the question of where the knife was moved to. Where could Butts have stashed the knife? Eureka! Since Emma stated only a portion of the apartment was examined, Butts could conceivably hide the knife inside the apartment without it being found in this case. Let's get Gumshoe on the job. If I may, Your Honor, there happens to be a private detective and a police officer on the scene. I would like to have them search a few unexamined areas of the victim's apartment.
As long as they're already there, I don't see why not. What exactly will they be searching for?
The knife, Your Honor. The map shows that not all areas of the apartment were examined. I believe if these other areas are examined, the knife will indeed be found.
Okay then. Place the call, Mr. Edgeworth.
I don't know, Your Honor. This sounds like a waste of the court's time. Where would they even begin to look? Excuse me, like I said earlier, Mr. Butts did go to the kitchen to call the police. I didn't think much of it at the time, since that's where I saw the phone. However, since my back was turned at the time, I couldn't see exactly what he was doing. But maybe he hid the knife somewhere over there. I suppose it's possible. The kitchen wasn't part of the crime scene's immediate surroundings. Honestly, I know this new policy is supposed to help and all, but I miss the days when we searched an entire house if I'm to place there. Seriously, what's the point of getting the job done fast if we don't get it done right?
If Detective Sky is quite done munching her snack who's.
Sorry about that. I munch when I'm stressed.
Anyway, the kitchen sounds like a good place to start. Mr. Edgeworth, make the call.
Right away.
This is Gumshoe.
Mr. Gumshoe, we need you to search the kitchen for a blood-stained knife. The knife may or may not have been wiped clean. Have you any alchemically enhanced luminol?
Never leave home without it, pal.
Excellent. I suggest starting with the utensil drawers or the dishwasher.
Makes sense. I'll get right on it. Well, look what we have here. A bloody knife in the dishwasher, just like you said. Can't test for the blood type right now, but I'll have Officer Meekin submit this into evidence.
So there was a bloody knife in the dishwasher. So what? Are you suggesting the blood belonged to the victim?
No, the blood can't possibly belong to the victim. It says as much in the autopsy report.
So who would you have us believe the blood on the knife belongs to?
Logically, the only person the blood could belong to would be Larry Butts. Sawit has no knife wounds, and only Mr. Butts could hide the knife after Sawit saw it.
No!
Your Honor, I believe this changes things considerably.
I believe you may have a point. Another day will be needed to check if the blood on the knife matches what's on the floor. Hopefully, we can get this case wrapped up by tomorrow. That'll be all for today, though. Court is adjourned.
You guys don't need to check the blood type on the knife. I admit it, it's my blood on there. So, you admit you were wounded with the knife. Would you care to elaborate on how? Was the victim trying to defend herself, or did she go crazy and attack you first?
Attack me? Nah, we were eating steak and I accidentally cut myself while digging in.
That's all it is. Sorry, but your client's still guilty here. If that's all so innocent, pray tell why you hid the knife.
I didn't hide it. It was dirty, so I put it in the dishwasher. Simple as that.
Even if the blood was from you cutting yourself, that's still tampering with the crime scene.
It wasn't a crime scene when I put it there. That creep never saw any knife. It's like that giant banana over there said. He was making up a pathetic lie to save his own skin. Him lying about the knife being there is just a coincidence. That's exactly right. Glad we got that clear. Hey, who are you calling a giant banana?
This is absurd. To say it's all a coincidence is implausible beyond rationality.
Implausible or not, you don't have any proof he was lying about how his blood got on the knife. Even if a DNA test proved Butts' blood was on both the knife and the floor, without a motive, the worst crime he could be charged with is tampering with the crime scene. Still illegal, I know, but certainly nowhere near as bad as murder.
Prosecution is correct. We've yet to establish any motive that would implicate Mr. Butts.
Exactly right. Sorry it had to end this way on your first trial, rookie.
Which is why the witness will testify for us once more about that day's events.
Oh, come on!
The defense shall then cross-examine the witness. However, if nothing resembling a motive can be reasonably established, I'm afraid I will have no choice but to render a guilty verdict for the defendant.
Whatever. Fine. At least we won't be wasting too much time this way.
Can't believe it. I was so close to ending this.
You'll be fine, Miles. You have him right where you want him. Getting the guilty to break down, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
Everyone is ready. Mr. Butts, your final testimony, please.
Listen, you gotta believe me. I didn't murder Cindy. Maybe it's hard for people like you to understand, Edgy, but you typically don't kill people you love. If there's one thing I know, it's that I loved Cindy. She was a happy, healthy person cut down in the pride of her life, and I had nothing to do with it. Blood on the knife is there because I cut myself trying to eat my steak. That's all it is. Now stop trying to blame me for this and start going after her actual murderer, why don't you?
The witness has made his statement. The defense will begin its cross-examination.
It's your last stand. Are you capable of handling this? More than capable. It's finally time to expose the truth. And get in there and fight.
Listen, you gotta believe me. I didn't murder Cindy.
Hold it!
I most certainly do not have to believe you. The fact that you are still continuing with this ridiculous charade is astonishing.
Would you please stop badgering the witness? Look, I get that it's your first case and you want to get your client off the hook. But you're gonna need solid evidence for that. Without proof, you just look stupid when you constantly insist someone committed a crime.
I wonder if he's aware of the irony of that statement.
Maybe it's hard for people like you to understand, Edgy, but you typically don't kill people you love.
Hold it!
And what proof do we have that you loved her? All we have is your word on this. Without corroboration from the deceased, that doesn't really amount to much, does it?
Why, you little... That does it! When I are done here, I'm gonna sue you for defamation of character.
It's defamation of character, you ignorant simpleton. Quite the words I would have used, but they shall suffice.
If there's one thing I know, is that I loved Cindy.
Hold it!
I find it interesting that you use that term in the past tense.
Well, duh. Cindy's kind of dead now, you know.
But if you were truly in love, would you not still love her even after death?
Nah, that's really kind of gross, man.
As usual, he's completely missing the point.
She was a happy, healthy person cut down in the prime of her life, and I had nothing to do with it.
Hold it!
Really? Are you quite sure of this?
Absolutely. There was nothing wrong with my Cindy. God, why did she have to die? She was way too young. It should have been me instead.
The way he's talking about her, I wonder if he's even aware of that.
Blood is on the knife because I cut myself trying to eat my steak. That's all it is.
Hold it!
You know, Gumshoe is still at the crime scene. Should be easy enough to prove you ate steaks. All he needs to do is check the garbage for your steak bones.
Sorry, but we weren't eating T-bones. I had a boneless steak.
I was kind of hoping he'd say he ate the bone too. Oh well.
Now stop trying to blame me for this and start going after her actual murderer, why don't you?
Hold it!
Methinks thou doth protest too much, Mr. Butts.
Yeah, could you say that again in English?
What was English, you uncultured rube. I mean, you are just a little too adamant that someone else killed the victim. Makes it seem as if you have something to hide.
If someone is being accused of a crime they didn't commit, it's only natural for them to deny guilt. By your logic, if anyone says they didn't commit a crime, then they certainly must be guilty. Your client even said he didn't do it. I guess this means he and the witness are co-conspirators.
I noted a semantic slippery slope fallacy as well as an appeal to ridicule in that statement. Just wait, though. He objects now, but I guarantee he will use my argument in a future case. No doubt without proper context. I just had a thought. What if you were to contradict more than one piece of evidence at once? Well, obviously, you would need to present more than one piece of evidence then. All at once? Like a sort of super objection? Don't be daft! Such tomfoolery is completely unnecessary. You simply present one piece of evidence and follow up with more as needed. It's a moot point, however, since the witness has only contradicted one piece of evidence. I'm sure you can ascertain which one it is. And if you have any thoughts in your head about supra-objections, I suggest you drop them now.
She was a happy, healthy person cut down in the prime of her life, and I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, about that.
Objection!
Mr. Butts, you say Miss Stone was a happy, healthy person. I'll ask you once more. Are you absolutely certain of this?
Definitely. I'm positive.
Mr. Butts, this pill bottle was found in the victim's medicine cabinet. Forgive me, but I have a little trouble believing antidepressants would be prescribed to her if she was indeed both happy and healthy.
All right, so she was taking antidepressants. What difference does it make?
Actually, it probably wouldn't make any difference at all if she had actually been taking them. However, this prescription was filled 2 weeks ago, yet not one pill had been taken.
I'm not sure where you're going with this, Mr. Edgeworth.
If you'll allow me to elaborate, Your Honor.
All right, I'll bite. Why were antidepressants prescribed to the victim?
Because she was depressed, naturally. Now, I can't speak for you, but were I a woman, dating someone like Larry Butts would depress me. Since the pill bottle is full, I think it's safe to assume Miss Stone was not the pill-taking sort. So rather than simply break up with Mr. Butts, the victim tried to kill her source of depression, making this a case of self-defense. On the other hand, you know, as surprising as it may be, antidepressants are not solely used to treat depression. They're also used to treat anxiety, OCD, eating disorders, and in some rare cases, rage.
Wow, learn something new every day. So, if that's the case, why don't you tell us what symptom the victim was suffering from?
I would say anxiety fits. She was most likely living in fear of her boyfriend. That day, she saw him pick up the statue. Panicking, she gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah, that never happened. Gotta tell you, I'm hooked. Come on, I want to hear another crazy theory. Why don't you tell us what symptom the victim was suffering from?
Obsessive-compulsive disorder would be my guess.
Interesting theory. Doesn't help your case, though.
Wait, I'm not done. What if she tried to stab him because she couldn't handle the way he was eating his steak? I guess you never saw her apartment. If OCD could drive her into a murderous frenzy, she would have bombed the place.
This is rich. Who needs cable when I have you rookies around? Give me another one. I haven't laughed enough today. Why don't you tell us what symptom the victim was suffering from?
She had an eating disorder. She saw Butts eating that steak and she couldn't control herself. She wanted that steak and she wasn't going to let him keep it from her, so she tried to kill him for it. Maybe the steak wasn't even enough. Maybe she wanted to eat him too.
This brings back memories. It's like going up against the rookie Ben Matlock all over again. Please, tell me another good one. Why don't you tell us what symptom the victim was suffering from?
My dear Mr. Payne, the answer to this whole affair is elementary. Cindy Stone was being treated for anger management issues. We know Mr. Butts had both the means and opportunity to kill Miss Stone. Factor in anger management, and we now have a plausible motive. And based on the look on your face, I'm exactly right, aren't I? It was you, Larry Butts. You killed Cindy Stone in self-defense and then tried to frame Frank Sodds.
He only has that look on his face because you're badgering him. Besides, if it was self-defense, shouldn't he have some knife wounds somewhere on his body?
You should mention that. But first, I have 3 questions for the witness. Mr. Butts, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Left-handed, but what does that have to do?
Next question. Would you kindly give a thumbs up with your right hand?
I mean like this?
Excellent. Now, will you please perform the same gesture with your left hand?
Are you done with your questions yet?
I thought I noticed something off. Mr. Payne, note that the witness appeared to be rather stressed when he was using his left hand. However, this was not the case when he was using his right hand. Ergo, the defense concludes Mr. Butts was placing undue pressure on a knife wound in his left palm.
Witness, is this true?
Yeah, it's true. Oh, wait a minute! He said he cut himself eating steak! Surely that would explain it!
I thought you might say that, which is why I asked the witness whether he was right or left-handed. By his own admission, he is left-handed. This, my dear prosecutor, brings up a rather interesting problem. Now, what is it about the witness's left-handedness that conflicts with the story about the wound? Okay, I know I get a penalty for this one, but I have to select it. The very fact that the witness is left-handed proves he is a pathological liar. You can't trust anything this man says. After all, the word sinister comes from a Latin word meaning left-handed.
That's just racist!
Agreed. Your bigotry has earned you a penalty, Mr. Edgeworth.
What's wrong with me? I'm left-handed!
I apologize, I have a more reasonable explanation. Now, what is it about the witness's left-handedness that conflicts with his story about the wound? The witness's wound just so happens to be located on his left palm. Now explain how a left-handed person holds a knife handle in his left hand and slices his left palm.
No!
Now then, are you finally willing to tell the truth, Mr. Butts?
It was an accident. I didn't mean to. Cindy needed help. She would suddenly lash out at people sometimes. I'm a man. I can handle a black eye now and then, but I was worried she might get in trouble. I finally convinced her to talk to a therapist, but I guess she never followed through with his help. And that day, she started slashing at me with a knife after lunch. So I tried to knock her out with a statue. I never meant to kill her.
I'm sorry, Larry. Why didn't you go for help when the abuse started?
I tried! My friends just kept telling me to grow a backbone.
Sounds like they weren't very good friends, if you want my opinion. I don't understand, though. Why frame an innocent person for her death? You could have come to us. I'm certain the judge would have understood the situation.
I didn't mean to frame anyone at first. I was just trying to run away. But after I got to my car, I remembered the knife with my blood on it. So I went back to her apartment to get rid of the knife, but when I saw him there, I just panicked.
Well, now that you tampered with the crime scene and tried to have someone else take the fall, I don't believe a judge will look too kindly on that fact.
This judge certainly wouldn't. Be grateful that I will not be presiding over your case, Mr. Butts. Mr. Payne, have the witness taken into custody.
Yes, right away, Your Honor.
In any case, the court would like to extend its apologies to Frank Sawett. A grave mistake was almost made today. Thankfully, however, Mr. Edgeworth helped us find the truth. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Frank Sawett. That is all. The court is adjourned.
Excellent job in there, Miles. You've made an old man proud. What can I say? I had an excellent teacher. That may be, but you were the one who pieced everything together. You did well.
Yes, thank you so very much. I won't forget this. Gratitude runs very deep in my family.
If only your father was still alive. We've been most pleased with your accomplishments today. Be certain my father was a prosecutor, but I studied to be a defense attorney. It does not matter what side of the courtroom you're on. Your father may have been a prosecutor, but above all else, he was a man of integrity. He would never stand for an innocent person to be found guilty. You honored his memory by saving Mr. Sawett. Never tell yourself any different. Aside from that, you and I both know why you decided to become a defense attorney. You would hardly object to your motivations, and you know it. Of course, you're right. Just having a moment of self-doubt, I suppose.
Hey, Miles, congrats on winning today.
Wait, what are you still doing here? I thought you and your cousin were to go skating.
I know that. I just wanted to say goodbye real quick, so bye.
Why is he grinning like that? Well then, we'd best be on our way. Not just yet, Mr. Von Karma. You promised me an explanation. Funny, I don't remember promising anything. Regardless, I would like to clear something up. First, you assigned a murder trial to someone who only just passed the bar exam. Secondly, there was a certain piece of evidence that helped us win the case. I thought the explanation given for it was somewhat far-fetched at the time, but despite the reason given for finding it and the role it played the case being unrelated, it became the linchpin proving Mr. Butts' guilt. I wish you wouldn't be so vague, Miles. Would you simply show me this evidence? Very well. This is the conveniently decisive piece of evidence.
Take that!
The antidepressants. You said you had Gumshoe check the medicine cabinet because someone might have burgled it. No one would go through all that trouble when there was a golden statue ripe for the taking. So what if it was the murder weapon? They could have melted it down with no one the wiser. Well, you caught me. I'll explain everything. When Frank first told me what happened, I had a fairly good idea who murdered Miss Stone. The problem at the time was that I lacked sufficient evidence for a motive. At that point, however, there was not enough time to both prepare the case and investigate. Ergo, I delegated the case to you so I would have the opportunity to interview the victim's friends. Given the victim's line of work, I suspected she might have had some sugar daddies. After all, jealousy is a fairly common motive for murder amongst couples. However, most of the people who knew her said no one in his right mind would date her. The general consensus was that her temper was uncontrollable. A few people thought she may have gone to receive care, but that it didn't seem to be effective. Since you were the lead attorney, I couldn't subpoena her medical records, and giving you her acquaintances' affidavits about her temperament would have been too easy. So to give you a better chance to solve the case on your own, I sent Gumshoe to the crime scene. The probability of him finding anything useful was remote, but in the end everything went well. I kept the affidavits on hand as a trump card just to be safe, but it fortunately never came to that.
Wait a minute, you mean you were withholding evidence this whole time?
Certainly not. I was merely waiting for them to become relevant before I used them. But by the time they actually became relevant, you were already winning anyway. Hardly matters, though. When all was said and done, you were still the one who closed the case. I suppose you're right. Thank you for all your help, however. That is what I'm here for. We need to leave now, though. Yes, of course. Incidentally, I have some important business to attend to tomorrow. I shall need you to retrieve my daughter from the airport then. She's returning from a mistress. Right, the exchange school program. Shouldn't be a problem, sir. And again, it's Francisca. Thank you, Miles. I appreciate it. And with that, I ended the first case in my career on a relatively high note. That was to be the first step towards finding the truth about a haunting event from 15 years ago. My father's death, the DL6 incident. A case that forever changed the face of the legal world. I would not reach that journey's destination for some time, however. My journey's next step, though, was one I was completely unprepared for.